Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Oxygen Not Included Redux. We are starting to build our sleet wheat farm, but I ran into some problems. I ran out of steel, and I don't have any dirt. And I was trying to figure out why, because I should have things. The steel should be getting produced because I have everything, except that I don't have eggshells to make the lime. And the eggshells come from Gorgani, and the dirt, I have plenty on Gorgani that should be being transported over, and it wasn't. So I went over to Gorgani to figure out why, and I found out I had never checked allow manual use on this device here. I think because I was planning on running an automation line down here so that we could have the stuff shipped out by the auto sweepers, but for now, I enabled it, and now we have eggshells and dirt flowing back over to the main colony. And that means that we have steel production get back in order, so we're making steel, and we have dirt coming in for our crops, which specifically we really need for the sleet wheat. So we're getting things built. I'm going to disable this water so I can deconstruct this. I need to switch some of these components over to steel because they were built out of iron by mistake when I ran out of steel and I didn't notice right away. But while we're waiting on them to finish up these little things, looks like we just finished our research, which means that that was our final research down here, and that means that we have finished another achievement, which should be our all research achievement. So that, of course, takes forever for our achievements to load anymore, but honorary doctorate. Unlock every item in the research tree, but we finished that. Nowhere to go is our next achievement in the list. Have 8 duplicates wear non-default clothing simultaneously. That one's a pretty simple one. I can set that up pretty easily. All we have to do is go to stations and textile loom. Add that in right here. We'll connect some power to it. And then we'll craft 8 different outfits and have 8 different people wear them. We may actually have those outfits in the system now, but let's see. A snazzy suit. Another snazzy suit. Snazzier red suit. Purple polyester. What else we got in here? Snazzier violet suit. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We just need one more. This one right here we'll assign to Harrison. As soon as they come and pick up their suits, we should get that achievement unlocked too. Alright, so as far as our sleet wheat is concerned, we're building a mini steam turbine here. We're going to bridge off of this polluted water line, get polluted water in it. We don't need to use supercoolant for this system because we're not doing anything too crazy as far as coolant goes. Let's see, plumbing, liquid vent. I gotta wait for the steel to catch up. So we have to get some steel to finish up in here, then we can seal this up, and then we'll connect our coolant line. So let's see, we want to do... How do I want to do the coolant line here? We don't need a very large section of coolant line. we're just going to be cooling this area off. So I think we could run it like this. And then just take a bridge over this way. Yeah, and that'll finish the loop. So yeah, that's almost finished. The other thing I'm working on building while that's getting done, I started doing, this is the foundation for our liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen system. We're building it up here in the vacuum of space so that we don't have to worry about pumping out gases for everything to stay the temperature that we need. This is also going to have a steam turbine system in here to do the cooling, but we're going to use supercoolant so that we can cool these down to very, very cold temperatures, and we'll start working on hydrogen. So one thing I do need to do is the vacuum, but I need to have drywall behind everything. Otherwise, we're just going to lose all of our gas space, our liquid space. So we can have that start building. But this I will show off a little more once we get the construction going. But like I said, we need to get our steel production back up in order. And that's going to take some time for eggshells to get across and get turned into lime again for our steel production to keep being done. So, okay, good. We do have enough eggshells. So yeah, we're just going to let that run for a while and let all of our other construction finish, and then we'll be back. I've gotten our sleet wheat running. We're still cooling down the area a little bit, so some of it's not quite there. Like if you look at this one, the temperatures are 5.6, but it's getting there. I just have a coolant loop going through and then some temperature shift plates to shift the temperature around. And I'm still tweaking the temperature to get it just right. I don't want to go too cold because I have water coming in to feed the sleet wheat. So I'm just trying to find that balance. But I'm going to go down. We'll let that go for a little while and let that run. Over here, I added in a bristleberry farm. In order to grow the bristle blossoms, we need light and we need water. So we have that running in. And then we also have to get the temperature down a little bit because the light heats it up. So what I did is connected it to the loop that I'm using on the thimble reeds because their temperature range is about the same. This one's 5 to 30 and this one's 22 to 37. So if we keep it right there in that 27 range, we're good for both of them. So we're letting that go, and then this is set up to make berry sludge. So we can have food that never spoils, which is what we're going to use in the future for our rockets. So this is all done. We just have to give it time for everything to grow. This temperature still just a little too high. We'll just have to let that keep going down. Let's bring this down to 3 degrees. I think if we give it time for it to even out over time, it'll work. Like I said, I don't want to get it too cold because I have water in these pipes. So I want to make sure that that water doesn't cool down, but it's coming in at a pretty hot temperature. So I think it'll be okay. It'll continue to stay warm enough that it won't freeze in the pipes, but we'll see. I do have it in ceramic pipes so that it shouldn't get too much transfer of heat. So we should be okay. So we're gonna let that run for a while and just let that make us the berry sludge we need for our space transports, and we're gonna move on to building up our liquid hydrogen and oxygen. So this is gonna take me a little while just to get everything all laid out, and then I'll explain what we're gonna be doing as we do it. I have gotten the liquid oxygen up and running. I think I have it all set up right. We're just finishing up the chamber for the liquid hydrogen. We're going to be connecting that here in just a moment. And I just wanted to show you how it's working. I didn't build this on camera because it's not really my design. This was something where I just used a design that Francis John has used for a long time. There's not really much to improve on it. Pretty straightforward process. So oxygen is pumped in to here. We have a supercoolant loop that goes through and it goes down to minus 180 and cools down the oxygen until it gets to the point where it turns into liquid. It starts to fill up this tank. Once it gets to the point where there's more than 450 kilograms in here, it pumps it through out into the reservoir, but keeps it flowing so it doesn't ever freeze up. And once it goes above 500 on this tile, meaning that this chamber's half full of liquid, it shuts off the gas flow in. So pretty straightforward. It's the same for the hydrogen. Temperatures are a little bit different. But for some reason these power wires are not getting built. So I'm going to cancel the order. Let's put in some power. Make them high priority. We want to get this finished. We're going to connect this power wire up. As soon as that construction gets finished, we'll have that done. Then we're going to take this and connect it here so that hydrogen can start flowing into this chamber. We built this up here because it's in the vacuum of space, so we were able to build without having any gas problems, and we don't have any gas around it, so none of the temperatures can spread, because these are really super cool temperatures. So we don't want to have really high temperatures. And then I just have gas lines coming from our main gas storage over here. This is cooled down with a loop that is cooled down from the oxygen chamber itself. So the hydrogen comes through, it cools off, and then it goes back up. It goes through here. There's plenty of chill in here to keep the line cool so that we can cool down the steam turbine. Just so that way it's self-cooling. And these aqua tuners just run when we need to cool down the oxygen and the hydrogen. So this is set at minus 190 because hydrogen... Oops, I'm on a temperature shift. I want hydrogen. Hydrogen turns to liquid. Oh, we need to actually set this one to minus 255. Let's do that. And then this one is the one that's set at 186 because at 180, 183 it turns to liquid oxygen. So this is cooling it down just slightly below that point. I don't want to go too far because I don't want it to turn into a solid. I don't want to have any ice in here. We want to keep it right in this liquid state. Once we're done and these get run for a while, we'll end up with a reservoir full of liquid oxygen and one full of liquid hydrogen, and it'll keep refilling as we pull it out so that we'll be able to use them for our rockets. I have started building a new rocket base. This time I built it up higher. That way I have all this space for the heat to dissipate. I don't think it's going to cause us any problems over here. Hopefully, should be enough space there for it. This rocket is, if I did the math right, the top of the rocket platform should be right underneath their build limit. And that way that gives us all this extra space. We'll see once we get to building this if that's correct, because I haven't tested it yet. So let's speed this part up. And assuming that the rocket has enough space, then we'll continue on with that. And then I'll probably end up moving all these other rockets up and just having several rockets that are all hydrogen powered lined up over here. It's kind of the plan. But for now, this is just going to have to run for a while so that this oxygen can build up. Same with the hydrogen. You can see this is already cooling down pretty quick. This one is staying right at the minus 183 point. I think I'll probably pull this down one more degree just to see. I want to get it to the point where when the gas comes out, it kind of turns into liquid pretty quickly. And once we have a bigger stockpile of it, that will happen faster because we'll have a bigger reservoir to hold the heat. But we're slowly building up our oxygen. Hydrogen, going to take a little while longer to get down to the right temperature, but we'll get there. So we're going to let all that run. I'm going to clean up things a little bit, let our rocket get built while we're doing that. Looks like I have a piece of granite in there. It's just going to have to stay because I'm not dealing with getting it out. What that's from? Must have been something I deconstructed on the in here and it popped in the middle. It's a shame. That's all right though. So yeah, we're gonna let it run for a bunch of cycles until we get enough liquid stored up, and then we'll get ready to do some more rocket launches. We now have both the liquid oxygen and the liquid hydrogen being produced. Our liquid oxygen is slowly filling up the tank. Once we get over 450 here, we should see the oxygen start to cycle, and then we'll know for sure whether I have everything set up correctly. Hopefully I do. Oxygen is a little more versatile because if we look at the temperature range here, it goes to from a gas to a liquid at minus 183. It doesn't drop down to a solid until minus 218. We can go down to just above minus 220 before we're going to have any ice forming. On the hydrogen side of things, if we look at the temperatures for that, it turns from a gas into a liquid at 252. So really you have to get down to 254.2 to get it to shift. But if you go just 5 more degrees, well, really 7 more degrees, and get it down to 261.2, it'll change state again into a solid. So with the fact that we have the 14 degree shift with using the aqua tuner, that can make that a little bit tricky. And so that's why we have this system set up where we end up getting a large pool of liquid in here before we start cycling it through and taking it out, because it'll keep the temperature nice and even. We may have to mess around with the sensors here just to see what temperature we're doing. What exactly is happening here? Is it shifting its temperatures? Not quite sure what's going on that's causing it to be erratic, but I think I'm just going to let it go as it is. I have the temperature here at 193, so even if it goes down all the way to minus 207, which would be 14 degrees below that, we should still be above the ice temperature. I might bring it up 1 degree or 1 notch just to see if I can get it to be acting a little more stable. Not quite sure what is going on here. We're having liquid and gas in the same spots. Actually, it might be because I need to go a little colder. Let me look at this again. Our oxygen, 183. So if we can get this to be consistently below that, but without going past 218, so we can go all the way down to 200 here. Let's do that. I think that this is changing back and forth between liquid and gas because it's right on the edge. So I want to go even colder with the temperatures. And 200 would still give us a 5 degree window before we're getting to the point, even if we're chilling it all the way down to the lowest the aqua tuner can get it. Wonder, almost looks like I have gaps in the supercoolant, but I shouldn't. And I'm not sure why that is. It always put in a pump up more supercoolant. Again, just to make sure it's full. Alright, I may work on that. I'm going to let this keep going and get this all ironed out. The other thing is I now have 65,000 calories of berry sludge. So our farm down here, we're getting plenty of sleet wheat. Bristleberries are growing, and we have duplicates making berry sludge at our micro musher. We may want to put in some sweepers into this farm as well, just so that the sleet wheat comes out, but for now, I'm pretty happy with it. We're going to let it just go. Or sure. Also, I had done different suits for our people, and it doesn't look like they actually did the thing. Wonder if I tried to assign it to people that are on the other colony. So I'm going to work on getting that done so that we have 8 duplicates wearing non-standard clothing, and we'll go from there. So I did figure out the issue that we were having with our achievement and nowhere to go. I was trying to assign clothing to duplicates that were on the other colony. So obviously they could not pick them up. So now we got that knocked out. Critter Whisperer, we still need to find a few critters to set up farms for on Gorgani or on other colonies for some of them if we have to, but we pretty much need to find eggs so that we can get those set up. And so we're going to skip that for now. We're still working on it. Next easy one to do is the some reservations. And honestly, I should have done this a long time ago when I still had a lot of spaces we could do it. But we're going to try to go to Gorgani and look at some of the spaces we have left here to see if we can't figure out a way to get that to work. So, to do the achievement, we need to make nature reserves, which is nature reserve grants higher morale to duplicates and parks. So it has to have a park sign. It has to have 4 wild plants, no industrial machinery, minimum size 32 tiles. Okay, so right here we have 2 wild plants. So we're going to just kind of do temporary buildings around these to make them work. And then we're going to put in, let's put it like right here. And then we will build a room around it. Let's see. Right now our pips are over here. This is set at priority 6, dropping off an auto wrangling once it's at 8. And this one is 20, priority 5. So let's set this to priority 6. So we'll set this to 7. We'll send pips over here. We've gotten our first nature reserve done. You can see this turned into a nature reserve. We have plants that are planted. So I set this critter station to 0 so that way these pips are being removed and they're being put into this room, which we're going to get park sign put in. We'll get the storage bin moved over with some seeds, and we'll let the pips plant some seeds in this room until this becomes a nature reserve. And then we'll move up and do this one, and then we're going to make another one up here. And then when we're done, we will have 4 nature reserves just to get the achievement done. And they don't really serve any real purpose. If you really want to use them, you want to set them up on pathways where the duplicates are going to be traveling through, so that you actually get the morale bonus from it. But for our purposes, this will get the job done. So we're going to break this storage bin, and then we will, all those seeds will get moved over to this storage bin so our pips can grab them. And then, like I said, we'll shift them up as we go after getting each room finished. So this room fits the requirements for size. We don't have the 4 wild plants. Once we get the pips to plant, we'll be all set for the main colony. We were working on the nature reserves because we needed time to get all the ceramics installed for these pipes. Let's test it out now. Oh, by the way, we just got the newest update, and they finally have added in a disconnect. So for the longest time, we just used the pliers mod, and now they've added that functionality into the base game, which is great because it's been something that everybody uses, and so it might as well just be part of it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have liquid oxygen pumped out, put into storage. It'll come up, it'll fill up our reserves up here, and then it'll come back down through here, the regulator that puts it back in, and hopefully this doesn't break our pipes. As long as we have the fluid constantly rotating, it should. But we'll see. That's what this regulation is for. We keep pipe fluid moving, movement in our fluid, hoping that it will not overheat and break our pipe. But where that was happening in the past, so we'll see what happens. So let's see. Are these already full? They are. So we're just waiting for the fluid to come back out and get dropped back off into the system. Okay, so we had enough cycle through that it is now letting more oxygen back in here to be processed. Looks like this stuff is... Let me take a look here. So if the oxygen that's in here... If we can get a look box to look at. If it gets to 183 is where it changes into gas. Which means if it warms up to 180, minus 181 is when it will switch. It is currently in the pipe at 187. So we have room there. Hopefully that means it'll keep flowing. And it will not be a thing. I had this set lower. Let's set this at 9,000 the way it's supposed to be. We'll let more flow out. Have to go and actually change that. Doesn't seem to work. Oh yeah, it does have to go and change the setting. Okay. So that's getting changed. Looks like everything's working good now that we have this pipe with ceramic. Originally we built it with granite, which was a problem, but I didn't have the ceramic at the time. So I'm going to work on this side of the pipe. We need to do the same thing. This all needs to be ceramic, but anything that isn't, we need to switch. Issue is we had just used a lot of ceramic, and it was a priority issue that it wasn't getting made. And now we should be good. We still have plenty of ceramic left. Why did that not? I have the wrong thing selected. I sure did. Sure did. That's annoying. Okay, let's do that again. So this all needs to be ceramic. Oh, we ran out of ceramic already. Oh, we'll let that get changed. We're gonna need to put in a ladder to get up here, make those changes there. Alright, we'll let that work for a while. It looks like the oxygen one is working. We're making more oxygen, and it's flowing through just fine, which is good. That'll make sure our rocket stays full. I just realized this episode's getting pretty long, so I'm going to split this into 2 episodes for the liquid hydrogen and oxygen. We've gotten the oxygen running, so that's providing us with the oxidizer we need for our rockets. We just have to finish the piping on the hydrogen and make sure that that's working, and then we can actually get this rocket fueled up. And we'll have to finish building this rocket so that we can start using our first hydrogen rocket. But I hope you guys enjoyed watching the episode, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye!